versus when it's going to bother you.
All right, welcome back. Now turning away from smartphone and human health to security matters. The past weeks have witnessed remarkable improvements in the war by the military against the insurgents, who had hitherto hoisted their flags in some parts of the northeastern Nigeria. With such victory in sight, what should the military do? We are now being joined by AUN security consultant Lionel Rawlins to tell us more about that. Nice to have you, Lionel.
Yeah, that one.
Fine. You're wearing a Kampala
yeah, you know,
top
he's so inclined
today?
to...
Yes, you like it?
Sure I do.
Good. Excellent.
Okay.
Alasure.
Good to see you.
Lasuri.
Oh, Alasure, jump and do.
Jam, jam.
That's good.
You're improving by the day, you know?
Small, small.
All right, this morning we are talking more on a lighter note, more on, excitement and all that, being that we're beginning to record successes as we battle with the insurgents in the northern part of Nigeria. Now, what would you say were the strategies, that led to this success?
Well, the strategy was that they kept going, they kept pushing, and even though the nation or most of the people were at times angry and they were very disappointed and negative in some ways, the military kept going and the police kept going and they kept pushing and they pushing and they kept pushing. And yes, you're supposed to win. They said the object is not to win the battle but to win the war. So they win some battles, they lost some. Now the war is being won by them. And they just kept going, they kept pushing. And I think that is what they did. They didn't waver, they didn't. And most of the times people didn't know what the military or the police were doing. And while we are asleep, they're out there fighting and they're out there doing things. And the next day we hear things and we get disappointed and we say funny things, but they kept going.
Even at that, Nigerians have been, disappointed over the years, since this whole insurgency thing started. And people do ask, why did they have to relent, in some of their efforts to fight this insurgent, and that had led to, this big crisis we're beginning to find, that they've, encroached into some villages and getting into some towns and claiming it. We should have seen more of going and pushing forward even before now.
I agree. I believe that there was a point when they kind of relaxed and backed off. And when they relaxed and backed off, the insurgents became stronger and they became more emboldened. And when they became more emboldened, then they started to really activate themselves. And in doing so, they built up a name for themselves, and everybody were very fearful of them, and still are. And we know that insurgents, they rule by fear, they govern by fear, and the big thing is to instill fear and to make the government look weak.
Now you say, let me hold you here. You said it makes the government to look weak. And you say before now they had relaxed a little bit, and it gave the insurgents another push, advancing towards them. That was before they recorded this recent victory. Now that they have overwhelmed the insurgents tactically, by bringing down the set man, talking about Shekau. Do you think the military should continue in this pace of dexterity, or they should relax a little bit?
No, you can't relax, because if they learned anything from the first time, that because they relaxed, then they have to go back and do it a second time, and it's always more difficult. It's not just in the Nigerian military either. It happens all over the world. It's when the war in Iraq was completed or ended, which it never really ended, everybody left, and they left Iraq to its own devices. When they did that, ISIS took over. And so now the world has got to go back in again and clean up the mess, and it's just more difficult. So it's the same thing. And I'm sure that your generals and admirals here are watching and taking a good lesson from that.
Now, Lionel, with the instance you gave of Iraq, what do we see of Nigeria? Shekau is now confirmed dead by the military.
Right.
Are we to relax? You know, when we talk about when they left Iraqis, to themselves, and then ISIS took over, are we to relax, or we should go ahead even after Boko Haram is brought to book? Is there a possibility of saying we've won the war and we can now relax?
No, you can't relax. I could almost bet you that some joker is going to create his own little Boko Haram and try to recruit young boys from someplace and do something again. And you're not going to get rid of all of the members of Boko Haram right now. Right now they're leaderless. They're running around trying to regroup and reorganize because that's what they would do. But the military is pursuing them and to stamp them out and try to do it completely and eradicate them all. But there will still be one or two figments hanging around, and they will, every now and then, they will rear their ugly heads by going and burn a village, burn a church, burn a mosque, shoot people, and just to show that they're still relevant. And they will go and ask for help from Al-Qaeda. They'll ask for help from Al-Shabaab. That's what they always do. Hey, I need some help. And they will send them arms, send them people, give them more training. But the military has got to stay on top of it. And I'm sure they will stay on top of it. But that comes down to you too, you the people.
Yeah.
You have to work with the military, and if you see something, say something. If you know what's going on, if you know that these people are strangers, if you know these people are suspected Boko Haram members or some insurgency group, you have to say something. You can't wait until something happened and say, oh, I knew these people from before and I knew they were bad people. You have to say something. You know, and I know people have a distrust of the military and some have a distrust of the police, but I think you should rather trust the police and the military than you would trust the insurgents. So if you see something, you must say something.
Now, trusting the military. Before now, the military had many difficulties in curtailing the insurgency. We heard of how they were attacked severally from the different strategic points. But now,
complained of lack of equipment.
Lack of equipment now. But now they have recorded an enormous victory over the insurgents. What will you say they were not doing then that couldn't give them an edge over the insurgents?
Well, I believe that they got better equipped, and by getting better equipped, they were able to at least take on the insurgents in a fair fight. And they went back to the drawing board and re-established their strategies. And I'm sure they probably might have gotten some help from someone or some country, or maybe this is just part of their master plan and they knew what they were doing. But I believe because they got better armed, better equipment, and a better, stronger desire and commitment to going out and taking on these people is what made it happen. And the outcry from Nigerians and the rest of the world, because it was not just Nigerians who were angry that nothing was being done, it's the rest of the world that was being done, that saw the news every day and wondered what is going on over there. So this is good that the military and the police are able to vindicate themselves. Someone told me this morning that it's political, that that the government could have done this a long time ago, but waited until it got close to the elections. But I don't know. I don't know your politics that well to determine if that to be so.
What do you also make of intelligence gathering? That led to this success?
Well, intelligence is your best form of defense and your best form of any kind of warfare. And it was intelligence that allowed the Nigerian military to accomplish the feat by killing the head and by taking over and dominating as the war is progressing. You can't beat intelligence. Maybe they weren't getting it before, maybe it was bad intelligence, but they're doing something right, and whatever it is they're doing right, they need to continue doing it, and they cannot stop.
Okay. Huh?
Yeah, before now, you know, there was a time that the military withdrew. And as a result of that withdrawal, do we say here now it was what actually prompted the government to equip them better?
Well, it's the outcry of the people. I mean, there were wives of the soldiers saying they don't want their husbands to go to war. People in every newspaper and every television, they were talking about how ill-equipped the Nigerian military was. And so, and I'm sure that your generals and your big people at the top, they're determined that, look, let's get some bigger guns, let's get the real thing. And I knew that they tried to get some from the US, and the US was kind of adamant about getting it to them. And they went elsewhere and got it, and it made a big difference. So what you see is sometimes, you know, when they were not having the proper equipment, people decried them, and people were saying some horrible things. Get the equipment, get the equipment. Yet, now that they went and they got the equipment, somehow they have a problem with South Africa.
Yeah.
And when people are now saying, why did you go there to South Africa? Why are you doing this? The question should be, if you don't have the arms, we get it. If you don't get it one place, we'll get it another.
And then you also talk about, you know, we can't leave any stone unturned. When you talk about, you know, strategies and intelligence in all of this war affair, 300, you know, militants or insurgents, you know, surrendered, saying they dropped their arms, they've surrendered. That is in Cameroon. Right. And we also have some who also have given up their arms, some parts of, you know, this country. Is that a form of strategy as to, you know, getting more information, or is, okay, we've surrendered and that's all? They get hold of them and keep them somewhere and it ends there? No,
it doesn't end there. When you have prisoners like that, that's where you get all of your information gathering from. And some of them may not even know anything. The majority of them are just conscripts. They were just recruited. Maybe they're doing it for the money. They don't care about the philosophy of Boko Haram or anyone. They just were getting paid. But inside those 300, you'll find there's about 50 people who know quite a bit, and those are the 50 you need to target and get all the information from. And they have good ways in the military of extracting information from people. And people will talk if you do it right. And but so you want to know who recruited them, where they get the arms, where were they hiding, where are the hideouts, maybe even where are the Chibok girls.
Girls, yeah.
So somewhere along the way, they will get all of the information that they need. And I believe the Chibok girls will be rescued pretty soon.
Now,
they'll be coming back.
It was reported that the military was infiltrated with the Boko Haram. And now we have recorded successes, you know, in the pursuit and the curtailing of these insurgents. Do we say now that the infiltration, those who have been infiltrated might have been pulled out or fished out that led to this success the military has recorded?
Some have been pulled out and fished out, as you said, but there are those who remain. They have probably realized I'm in too deep. I'm going to get myself in trouble sooner or later, and they tend to back off, and hope and pray that their names do not get called in the end, or called up yonder, as they say, and so they're more cautious now because they know people are watching. They know the military is watching, the government is watching them, the SSS is watching them. And so if I were one of those people who had infiltrated the military or was passing information back and forth, I would be very, very careful. And I would stop at this point until something else happened later on down. But it's not that easy to stop either, because if you're working for them, then they have you. You know, they're the ones. The insurgents are pulling the strings, and they will tell you when when to speak and when not to speak, and what to do and what not to do.
All right, we're going to talk on the tactical approach by field commanders when we return from this break. Well, let's take a break now. We'll be right back on this discussion. Don't go away.
Welcome back. Now, if you've just joined us, you're watching Safiya Breakfast Show. And we have been looking at the military adopting new strategies in the fight against insurgency with Lionel Rawlins, security consultant of the AUN. Now, before the break, Chris wanted looking at tactical strategies on field. But before we go into that, Chris, let's look at, well, now that we talked about insurgents giving up arms, surrendering, saying they're not longer fighting and all that. Let's look at the relationship between Cameroonian government and Nigerian government. Yeah. When you talk about, these insurgents being in between these two countries, definitely it had caused possibly, crisis or problems between the two governments, between the two countries, where we have Cameroonian borders being closed from Nigerians and all the relationship. How do you think this will also enhance, maybe rekindling the relationship between these two governments?
Well, it will rekindle the relationship and make it better, because the Cameroonian government at one time felt that Nigeria was exporting their problem into their country and making their country unstable, and they did not like it. And at first, they refused to get involved until the people got in there and started to destabilize the country and kill the people, and got involved in kidnapping, and which gave the country a bad name. But the Cameroonians know how to do things good, and they just said, let's just kill anybody who come across the borders, and that's what they were doing. They were just killing people crossing the borders, and they will shoot first and ask questions later, that kind of mentality.
Well, in another way, now that we have 300 insurgents surrendering in Cameroon, that means possibly there may be more insurgents in Cameroon. This
Absolutely.
is just part of them giving up their arms.
Absolutely, and something to think about. Why would they go to Cameroon to surrender there? Why not surrender in Nigeria? Because they probably feel if they're surrendered in Cameroon, maybe they may get away easily, or maybe they might just detain them for a few weeks or a month or two and then let them go. But they know if they were surrendered here in Nigeria that they may have a lot of questions to answer. And so on their side, the insurgent side, it's a trick. I shouldn't say it's a trick. It's a strategy that let us surrender there. Or let us go to Nigeria or to Chad, let's surrender there. But don't surrender in Nigeria because I might be in trouble. And so, but in Cameroon too, there's a lot of insurgents there because they ran across there too, and they're going to blend right into the community. But right now, the Cameroonian government is searching for them too. So obviously, there's no place to run and there's no place to hide.
But now, what do you say out of this tussle between the Cameroonian military and the Nigerian military in regards to who killed Shekau? Do you see it as another weapon, to weaken the collaborations between the two countries in fighting these insurgents?
Well, everybody wants to be the at the top, the ogre at the top. To me, it doesn't matter who killed the man. In fact,
what matters is he's dead.
He's dead, and and he can't hurt anybody anymore. and now everyone wants to be take the crown or the throne for the one responsible. This is just military stuff. It happens all over the world. You know, the Marines say we killed this guy. The Army say no, it's us. So it's one of those things. It's the Nigerians who did it from all intent and purposes, and for what I heard, it is the Nigerians who actually got him, not the Cameroonians.
Okay, now we have Shekau out of the way. Do we see another person impersonating him, because that was what he did?
It's going to happen, like I said earlier. Somebody is going to emerge sooner or later and say, I am now the leader of Boko Haram, and I am the new this, and my name is, and my philosophy is, and Nigeria, you will not rest, and I will make your life miserable. They always give these long, glorious speeches. And yes, they're not going to go completely away, but this is the time to render them so defenseless that most of the places they can hurt defenseless villages out there somewhere, where these old farmers are out there sleeping in the middle of nowhere, because you can't have the military and the police in every way, and in every village there is. But I think that the Nigerian military and police and our security forces are now themselves emboldened, and I don't think that they will get away. They will allow these people to get away. Also, the people in Nigeria need to start thanking those soldiers and police and security forces, because when you're asleep at night, they're the ones out there making sure you're okay. And then when you say thank you to them, and you make them, it goes a long way to tell a soldier at the checkpoint or the police at the checkpoint. If you say thank you on a nice, hot, sunny day, it means a lot to that person.
Sure.
And instead of hurling insults and stuff, just say thank you for what you do, because it emboldens them to want to go and fight, to defend you more. And so the people need to take that into consideration, that every time you see a soldier, just say thank you. In your case, wink at them and smile.
Oh, yes, and then will you say thank you to the military?
Of course, I've always done that.
Say it then.
I always, because I know it's not easy to just stand under the sun, checking and making people, feel comfortable and all that.
Yeah, so we say thank you to the military.
Of course,
then.
yes.
All right, now back to the initial question on the field tactical approach. Before now, we see the soldiers, the foot soldiers now, Nigeria foot soldiers, confronting the insurgents with, I wouldn't say a substandard weapons, talking about now using AK-47 to approach those who come against you with more sophisticated, anti-aircraft weapon. Now, from the field commanders now, do you say it was a wrong tactical approach, to confront the insurgents?
With AK-47s? No, it's your weapon, and it's your weapon. You have to fight. It doesn't really matter what kind of weapon you have. It comes down to a commitment and desire to fight.